What's up, guys? Welcome to the Monday Night Football DFS Week 10 Showdown Preview. We're going to be reviewing Monday Night Football with your best values in GPP stacks for Showdown slate for DraftKings Fantasy Football. So let's dive right in. So we're going to first start out with value in punt plays. So at the tight end position, Ross Dwelley is coming in at $2,000, and he is an easy punt play in lineup builds with George Kittle doubtful for Monday Night Football. Dwelley's going to see the lion's share of snaps Monday against Seattle. His price is too cheap for any starting player with any significant playing time. And if you look at the matchup, the Seahawks have allowed the 6th most fantasy points and 5th most receiving yards to the tight end position this season. Dwelley ran just one fewer route than Kittle did back in Week 9. So we're going to slide our guy Dwelley into the lineup here. I'm not going to put him in the captain spot just because I don't know how big his upside is going to be. But we'll put him in there as a flex, as a punt play to kind of let us kind of tweak around a lot of other things in the lineup. So the next thing is, some of the Seahawks receivers. So obviously, one of my favorite stacks is obviously Russell Wilson with a guy like Tyler Lockett. Those are the guys I really want to build around, but some guys that may be a little bit better in terms of, just saving some salary are guys like Jerron Brown and David Moore. So when you look at these two guys, so Jerron Brown comes in at 2,200. He's pretty interesting. He has 3 touchdown receptions in his last 2 games versus the 49ers, whereas David Moore is at 1,200. He's actually seen his snaps increase every week since week 6. So in week 6, he was playing 22.9% of the snaps, but that's gone up to 41.7, and then 49.2, and then all the way up to 54.7% in week 9. Brown snaps have actually decreased over that time span. So again, we could see a split between Brown and Josh Gordon, but I'm going to probably tend to fade away from Josh Gordon in this matchup. There's a chance he doesn't even play in this game. He's coming off a ankle injury. So for me, he's an easy fade. It's not like the Kenyon Drake thing, where Kenyon Drake, there was literally no one else to go to at the running back position, whereas the Seahawks do have other options at receiver. So I'm going to be fading Josh Gordon and his higher price salary for a guy like David Moore, who's only coming in at 1,200. So we'll put him in another flex spot as a guy that's pretty cheap that you can get in there. So now going into our favorite stack. So again, heading back to Russell Wilson, I think that he needs to be in almost every single lineup you make. The 49ers are favored by 6.5 at home. So I really think that, if the Seahawks are trailing in this game, it means it's going to be a smash spot for Russell Wilson. We've seen what he does when he gets unleashed in the passing game. He just totally balls out. And I loved obviously stacking him with his best receiver in Tyler Lockett. I think that obviously Lockett has been absolutely, phenomenal this year. I actually prefer Lockett over DK Metcalf because the matchup is tough. The 49ers are allowing the 4th fewest fantasy points to the receiver position this season. So I'm going to prefer Lockett. He scored at least 12 fantasy points in 7 games this season, and in 7 of those games, Metcalf has scored 12 or more fantasy points in just 4 of them. So you don't necessarily need to play them together. I would say that if you're doing multiple lineups, that you would build them together, but in a single lineup format, I would probably fade Metcalf and make sure I get my guy Tyler Lockett into there for your lineup builds. I also really like Chris Carson. He makes a lot of sense because if you play Carson with a guy like Russell Wilson, you're kind of basically solidifying the entirety of the Seahawks touchdown equity. It's possible for you to basically get all of the touchdowns that the Seahawks will score because it's either going to be a passing touchdown by Russell Wilson, it's going to be either a throwing touchdown by Russell, or a rushing touchdown by Russell Wilson, or it's going to be a rushing touchdown by Chris Carson. And if you get lucky, Carson is involved enough in the passing game where he could catch a touchdown. So we're actually going to slot in Chris Carson here in the flex or in the captain spot as a guy I really like there as well. So we may actually be able to move up from a guy like David Moore or Russ, because it looks like we have a little bit more salary. So this is going to bring me up to the 49ers. So I am recommending you do a Seahawks stack. I think that they're going to score the most points. I think Russell Wilson's just a better shot of scoring the most points, just because the 49ers are a run-first team. The only 49ers receivers I would consider playing are obviously Emmanuel Sanders, who comes in at 10,200, or Deebo Samuel, who comes in at 4,800. Seattle has allowed the most fantasy points to the receivers over the past 2 weeks. So again, build around your Seahawks and bring it back with certain 49ers guys. So actually, we're going to get rid of David Moore in this scenario, or actually we'll get rid of Ross Dwelley here. We'll see if we can add in a guy like Sanders and see how much money we have left. So we got 3,900 left. So yeah, we can fit in a guy like a kicker. So, this is a pretty good deal. So we'll throw this one in here for now. So Emmanuel Sanders is in a good spot. So I like him if he's the best receiver on the team right now. George Kittle's probably going to miss. So I like Emmanuel Sanders as a definitely option to play. And if you need to save salary, go down to Deebo Samuel. That kind of brings me to the next spot here is with the 49ers running game. So this is really a big spot where I think that the game script is going to be the 49ers are going to get the lead by running the football. The Seahawks aren't great against the run. They're not really good against the pass either, but the 49ers are going to prefer to run the football as opposed to pass. They literally run the football more than any other team just on a run play percentage basis. So that's why Tevin Coleman and Matt Breida are both in play. If you look also at their offensive line, they're getting some healthy guys back. Left tackle Joe Staley, fullback Kyle Juszczyk, right tackle Mike McGlinchey all have a chance to play in this game. And if they're all back, like that's wheels up for the running game. You definitely need to get some exposure to both Coleman and Breida for sure, especially if these guys are back. But regardless, both of these guys do much better at home. Breida's averaged 16 fantasy points per game at home versus just 9.4 on the road. Meanwhile, Coleman is averaging a whopping 28.3 fantasy points per game at home versus 8.9 on the road. So again, you want to try to get into these guys as well. If you don't try to go back with a Emmanuel Sanders, I would say you try to bring it back with a type of, one of the running backs for the 49ers here. So now looking ahead to some contrarian plays, this is really more or less going towards the tight end position. So again, I talked about Deebo Samuel as a guy, so he's more contrarian as opposed to getting off of guys like the, Emmanuel Sanders, if you don't want to play him, in particular, but guys like Jacob Hollister, a tight end, he's pretty, he's in a good spot. Quan Alexander is out in this game, and that's honestly why the 49ers have allowed the fewest fantasy points to the tight end position. Alexander ranked 8th in pass coverage and 2nd in passer rating for linebackers. So he was really helpful in terms of guarding the tight end. He is out in this game. So that is why Jacob Hollister isn't really in a potential great spot, especially if Ed Dickson, who's not on this slate as of right now, I'm not sure if they'll get added, but Ed Dickson, the tight end for the Seahawks, is right now is still inactive. He's not been activated from injured reserve, so I'm not sure if he's going to play in this game. And if he doesn't play in this game, I think Hollister is definitely someone that you want to pivot to because Quan Alexander is out in this game. Hollister's run the third most routes, 68 on the Seahawks over the past 3 weeks. And again, some more contrarian plays are with the kicker position. Chase McLaughlin is a backup kicker to Robbie Gould. He's going to miss this game. The 49ers rank 4th in the NFL in field goal attempts per game, 2.5, and Seattle allows the 4th most field goal attempts per game, 2.4. Previously with the Chargers, McLaughlin has averaged 7 points per game in 4 starts this year. So again, I really like him for that particular reason. Going to the kicker position, I think that it's not a bad spot at all to really leverage a guy like Chase McLaughlin, I don't even know what his name is, because people will probably be like, oh, he's a backup kicker, he probably sucks. He was decent with the Chargers, so I think that he's actually a good option if you're going to, obviously, you need to throw it back with some 49ers. If you think the 49ers aren't going to score as many touchdowns, you can throw it back with their kicker who I think will have a decent game. I'd probably prefer him over the Seahawks kicker, who's been kind of shaky a little bit here this year, and I do think that the Seahawks will score more touchdowns than kick field goals. Jimmy Garoppolo's got to be pretty popular at 11,000. I'm not really on him. I'd rather just play Wilson. I think that, again, even though Seattle has allowed the 9th most fantasy points to the quarterback position over the past 4 weeks, it's game flow, and I really don't think that the 49ers are like, okay, we want to go out and sling it, especially without arguably their best receiver in George Kittle. It doesn't make that much sense to me. They're going to be more run-focused, especially with getting guys back. They're going to run the pound the rock in this game, as opposed to really, putting Garoppolo in a spot where like, oh, we need to throw the ball. So again, 57% run play selection at home is what the 49ers do. So I don't see a lot of passing attempts. I mean, Garoppolo could obviously be efficient, but I would rather I'd rather get exposure to him through his receivers. Matt Breida, Tevin Coleman, and Emmanuel Sanders, like I said. And then, last for me, so Garoppolo's a fade for me. So Seahawks defense at 3,200, not great. They're not a good defense at all, but they could be a nice contrarian play. The 49ers have been averaging 2 giveaways per game. If you get pressure on Garoppolo, he sometimes does turn the ball over. So again, the Seahawks defense is cheaper. Most people are going to be going to the 49ers defense. I'm not willing to do that against Russell Wilson, who just basically is a guy that just like makes plays. He doesn't get sacked. He's able to make magic. So I'm going to bet on the Seahawks defense at a lower ownership to make plays for my lineup. So again, guys, this is the Monday night breakdown for Monday Night Showdown DraftKings. You have the 49ers and the Seahawks going at it. So, please hit me up on Twitter at _, and make sure you go check out the website, windailysports.com. And make sure you go check out Monkey Knife Fight. Take some prop bets on some of these players. You're going to want to take the overs on the Russell Wilson passing yards, all that good stuff. And you probably want to take the overs on the 49ers running backs, because if they get those offensive linemen back, it is going to be a run fest. And take the unders on Jimmy Garoppolo. So thanks for watching, guys.